Hello, okay, chapter 6 and 7, I'm combining them together like a hybrid chapter. Well, basically because they're quite short chapters, and I thought I can perform like a tiny video for just one chapter if it's really small, so two it is, and that that was a great explanation, I thought. Yeah, so I'm going to be doing them together, and hope you enjoy. Okay, let's begin. Okay, here we go. A vast display of trees met her eyes. Trees, plenty of trees, littering every part of the view before her. She had climbed as fast as she could to the top of the tallest and thickest tree she could find, and now all she could see was a valley of trees. She could vaguely hear the calls and shouts of the two boys below. They were useless. They couldn't even climb trees. She tried to look closer, squinting her eyes to pinpoint some distinguishing feature that they could aim for. The trees had a saddle quality, slumped and shaken to one side as if blown by a major storm. It reminded her of a person who had lost everything but life itself. The river, she suddenly realized. There's got to be some sort of river at the bottom of the valley. If they went upstream, that would lead them further inland, closer to the east coast. She didn't know much about the geography of the distant land known as America. She had been born far away, and there had been little point in that piece of education, rightfully so, in her opinion, until now. Dante was aghast. The tree she scrambled up at super speed was more like a monster tree than the humble oak and trees he was accustomed to. As they had walked further away from the shore, they had stumbled upon these mammoths chilling in the cooler air amidst foggy air, their branches creating a seething canopy. It was an eerie vibe, but the other two hadn't been affected by it. Only Dante, who barely had spent any time in nature anyway, well, except through the simulation of a video game or TV show. Redwood trees, he suddenly thought, his memory flicking back to an old documentary he had watched with boredom. They were the thickest and largest trees in the entire world. Staring at them, then, he thought it would probably take him over a minute to walk around one of those great examples of the power of nature. He heard a thud behind him to see Yula on her feet again, hair slightly out of place and breathing slightly heavily. Just how? Was all Dante could say. Specify, she demanded blankly. How do you climb like that? It's easy, she said, as started to walk in the direction of where she knew a freshwater river was slowly trundling its way down into the ocean. The air grew colder, grew thicker with fog as they hurried onwards. Yula and Uzimati seemed to much unperturbed now that they were in action, but Dante couldn't help feeling a ball of uncertainty writhing about in his stomach. They had collected pears from the tree, and Dante had stored as many as he could in his jeans while Uzumati simply bundled the pears in his arms. But pears couldn't sustain them. They needed a large variety of different nutrients. They needed broccoli, carbohydrates, apricots, nuts. There had to be other food sources, and he hoped Uzumati and Yula understood this. Surely, they must. They had to find and create some kind of storage device. But how could they make a backpack out of redwood and plant foliage? Dante was beginning to realize more and more that he was just a mouse, unaccustomed to tiny households and dusty-smelling barns. Now he had been chucked into the ocean, and had demanded him to learn how to swim. "We won't win the competition," Yula blurted out into the air. Uzumaki and Dante both started this. "Why? If what you say is true, and we are all from different points in the timeline of humanity, then there are bound to be superhumans who can cross the distance far quicker. None have running speed exactly, at least not from 2863, but some are astoundingly intelligent and could definitely find some resourceful means of transportation in this albeit strange environment. Well, we've got to try. It's our only hope," Dante continued, feeling alarmed. He believed the news after seeing a performance up the tree. She'd been like a monkey racing for the highest perch upon the highest tree. He'd only been able to watch for 10 seconds or so before she vanished above the ceiling. "You have the same powers, though." "No. Abilities are bought and sold like items on the market. I am not rich. I only got given the default abilities everybody is given, and also genetic abilities too." She didn't make any more comments. Any vestiges of feeling her body naturally vestiges arrived like daggers in her sides. And that's the end of chapter 6. So as you can see, yeah, it'll be only 5-minute video if I just stop now. So moving on, we're diving across the other way to back to Maria and Salvo, who are just, I guess, we'll find out, right? I mean, you'll find out. I already know because I wrote it, I guess. Yeah, that I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Okay, so let's go. Why must you be following me? Maria whirled around, lightning fast to catch Salvo about 100 meters away. It had been hours since their highly fascinating little word skirmish on top of the cliff. Since then, Maria had done as she always had, survived. Yes, this new world was different from surviving the passive-aggressive smiles, bows, plots, and assassinations of Ludlow Castle, but the ultimate goal was the same, keeping her alive. Her first goal being water. The air was still boiling hot, and also seemed to sting her cheeks, but plants were present, and plants required the nourishment from water to survive. Hence, there had to be somewhere, water, somewhere. Underground? Possibly. No, there was a far superior way. She must find a river. In the meantime, though, plants were good for new water, but she dare not touch those spiky beasts. Food was imperative too. She could already feel her stomach going through the typical meanderings of shooting dagger after dagger of pain, till eventually crawling into a nagging corner and subsiding in his onslaught. She could hear the rustlings and scufflings of animals in the sparse bushes that surrounded her. There were a few trees, bushy things with prickly leaves and twisted bark that looked like faces grinning at her. Eventually she hit the golden carriage. She had reached a pond of sorts, with 3 black-headed geese casually picking at the strands of grass surrounding the water's edge. She immediately crouched down, trying to think of every piece of advice about hunting Anton and Speal in his many ramblings. That fellow was like a walking printing press. He'd made this hunt sound super easy, as if it were nothing more than skipping from one side of the room to the other. Surely this would be simple. She eyed their long, curved necks that looked like tubes, and knew that must certainly be easy to break one of them, and then scare off the others with her frankly amazing fearful composure. Crouching low, trying not to step on the cracking reeds on the ground nearby, nor disturbing any other small hungry animal in the vicinity, she crept forward like a human chasing a goose. As she waited, that's exactly what she was. She almost felt excited. Castle living was so dull. As the young woman leapt forward to grab at the nearest goose's neck, there was a piercing hiss, and she saw the beating of wings that smacked hard across her face. Then a sharp bite at her shoulder which instinctively sent her lurching backwards. There was a great barrage of wings, and she could hear tumultuous honking, like the sound of a piano being played far too aggressively. The angry eyes of a goose met hers, and she could see it about to leap forward to peck at her face. As the goose stung its neck, Maria grabbed it with a swinging arm and held it, its wings beating furiously. She could feel the holes in her arms where the others had attacked, and she quickly began holding the neck of the goose she caught still in her arms. The honking and bleating was louder than ever, and she knew she had some fearsome, frustrated pursuance, but she didn't care. She knew she was faster. For a moment during her escape, she thought she could hear the sound of laughing. On reflection, it probably was the scoundrel. Even so, she had the goose. It was caught. There was nothing those pesky honkers could do about it now. Tying the carcass to the long stick she found, she hoisted it into the air and began to walk, unsure how to cook her findings. But she would find out. She felt satisfied, courageous, survivor. She wasn't going to be stranded like a helpless damsel, like in the story some of the upper-class girls who so frequently were sent to be taught the manners of being a lady at Ludlow used to obsess over. Nope, she always sensed she would be more than that, and a confident smile crept over her lips at the opportunity to prove just that. It was just such a petty nuisance that she had not only the goose strapped to her, but also another human being, the perverse man of the future times. What do you even wish of me? She shouted again. Salvo, who indeed had been following her throughout, was highly amused by her ultra-survival tactics, shouted back. We can help each other survive. My thanks, but I do not require assistance. No, he smiled, a long grin stretching across his tanned face. It was not a malevolent grin, more of a happy sigh of relief, as if that one single sigh pressed out a good portion of all his whirling fears and concerns. But I think I am in request of yours. And that's the end of the chapter. So chapter 7, that's it's read. Hope you enjoyed that. So I'm gonna do chapter 8 in a separate video. Hope you like that. And yeah, just if you want to know anything or uh, add like some piece of advice or whatever, just shouting words, I don't mind. Yeah, just feel free to comment that or just tell me somehow on my Wattpad baby message. I'll link it below in like that area. The description. Yep. So yeah. Hi, bye for now. I hope.